Hey, crime, as we've been talking about, continues to rise in cities across America. We often look at the statistics, okay? We look at the statistics, the numbers. But behind every number is a face. Behind every number is a name, sometimes unknown. But as you get down to the lower level, the closer to home, you begin to feel this, you begin to see it, you begin to understand it. Increasingly, more and more Americans are becoming victims of crime, or family members are becoming victims of crime, or they're seeing it. I remember as a kid, a long time ago, but it has stuck with me, a shooting right in front of our vehicles. We were driving down the road. A man stepped out and shot another man, and I'm like, this was surreal. Well, that's becoming almost a daily occurrence in some cities across this nation. In fact, a recent report on crime placed my home city of Baton Rouge. I live outside the city, but the city was placed on the top 10 list of the most dangerous cities in America. Now, this was not news to Coach Sid Edwards, the head football coach of an inner-city school in Baton Rouge. He's been a coach for 43 years. Crime has become very personal to him. The violence of the city has affected not just him personally, but those around him. And he's decided to step onto another field to address the impact of crime. And he joins me now in studio. Coach Sid Edwards, welcome to Washington Watch.
Glad to be here. I appreciate it.
So let me just begin with this question. Give us a little bit of your background. You're a football coach. You've told me you're kind of apolitical. You've just been coaching kids for 43 years. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, that's been my mission. I'm a long time football coach. I've coached softball, track, basketball, baseball, you name it. A coach is a coach. And that's what I've been doing, and I use sport to reach kids.
Something happened just a few years ago here in Baton Rouge, and we're in our Baton Rouge studio recording this interview, or bringing this interview to our folks. You had one of your star students. You had a lot of hope, a lot of prospects. Something happened. Tell us about it.
That actually was on January 1st of this year. And young man, he's 14 years old, turned 15 on Christmas actually. Bright student, bright future. Him and four friends were walking down Evangeline Street in North Baton Rouge, 70805 zip code, and they were gunned down. And my kid that was on my team, he died, and we had to bury that young man. And, from that January 1st point, at Istrouma High School, there's been four other children that have ties to the school or was at school that have been shot and or murdered. And it's mind-boggling, that our youth have this to deal with daily.
A lot of this is gang-related. There's a lot of underlying issues here. There's the breakdown of the family. But you told me a part of the story as the coach, you're invested in these kids. This is an inner-city minority school. You called the kids in over vacation time. This is during the Christmas break. You called them to come in to try to counsel with them and help them through the grief of losing a teammate. What happened there?
It was surreal to me. I was ready for some deep counseling, to work with these boys. And not all of them, but the majority of them was callous. It was, best way I could put it, just another day in their lives. Like we may get a flat tire or have car trouble or something like that occurs every now and then. That's kind of how they took it that day. And that was an eye-opener for me, how desensitized those young people have become.
So it's become a part of the culture. It's just another day, as you said, in the neighborhood.
It's expected, and it's sad. And they walk around. I don't think that they have enough sense to have some fear, and know where danger is, and keep their head on a swivel. But at the same time, I guess for someone who doesn't understand this concept or this lifestyle, it'd be no different that someone, hey, I'm going to play around the golf and we may get a thunder shower, not expecting it, but it may happen.
So, Coach, what does this do for young people in terms of their vision of the future and their hope and what they focus on? If this is just a way of life where you may be walking down the street and randomly shot and killed by a drive-by shooting. I mean, how does that impact your view of the world?
Well, it absolutely not much hope. And I think, I mean, we have a lot of bright kids on that side of town that could have bright futures. But when you live in, if you don't know, I'm almost to the point of, they're almost to the point of, hey, there may not be no tomorrow. Well, then how do you live? They're victims of trauma. It is a trauma-ridden community, but it's not just privy to 70805.
Right.
It's all over the parish.
Now you've coached in other communities. You coached in the community that I lived, the central community, when we actually helped get that school district established apart from the parish, which is an affluent area. Right. Where you're at now is not. Is there a lack of understanding from one community to the other of how life really is for many in the inner city?
100% a misunderstanding. Many of the residents in North Baton Rouge don't want to live that way. If you go through, many have their homes as nice as they can have their homes. Their lawns and the yards look really good. And there's a lot of people over there working hard to make ends meet. They don't want to live like they're living. Yeah. But people would travel to Plank Road Corridor or Winburn, but you have to peel back the curtain, because when you get into the heart of that side of the city, the despair and hopelessness is rampant. But
it's good to point out, because I recall this, and it's been 30 years ago, but when I was a police officer in Baton Rouge on the streets, in the bottoms, much of those same areas, that there were people who wanted the best for their kids. Most of the time, grandmothers looking for the best for their grandsons, and they wanted law and order. They wanted structure. That's not the stereotypical view of an inner city community is inaccurate. Not everybody there wants to be in the midst of chaos and crime. This prompted you to step out of your comfort zone. And I'm looking at this from a standpoint of, not just Baton Rouge. I obviously have a vested interest in there. I live in that community. But this is indicative of communities across this nation. I mean, crime is a national epidemic at levels of violence we see. You decided to do more than just, comment on the chaos. You tell us what you did.
Well, I qualified to run for the mayor-president position of East Baton Rouge Parish, and I got asked a lot of times, why, Coach, why? One of the things I had to do was I had to find out, can I do it? So I started looking at the job description, and the answer was unequivocally, absolutely, it can be done. It's no different than building leadership and building a team. And at the same time, people got to ask me, why wouldn't you step up, maybe start with the Metro Council? And I'm a head coach. And I think I've been an assistant coach 1 year during my whole career. And I think the most impact for our parish would be in the seat of mayor-president. And once I learned that, okay, yes, this is not rocket science. There's a ton of common sense in this deal. Once I decided, yes, I can do that, that's when I got in. And I think I could make a difference.
And just for complete clarity here, the Washington Watch and Family Research Council does not endorse or support candidates. But I find this story so compelling and interesting that here's a football coach. And look, I played football in high school. You and I are the same age. I served with coaches in politics myself. Coaches are universally loved. Politicians are not. Right. In fact, oftentimes, of course, you get to being a football coach at the level of like LSU. They either love you or hate you. But most football coaches are universally loved, especially at the high school football level. You had to consider that stepping into the political arena. That this was football's a contact sport, but so is politics.
I'm learning extremely quick. I've saw like on TV and past campaigns, the mudslinging, and all that type stuff, and now I'm victim to it. I'm learning. I'm trying to take the high road for sure. And I think when you see that, when politicians fight like that or mudsling, it's because they feel they have to become the mayor or president, or they have to become the president, or they have to become a senator. What sets me apart, I don't have to be the mayor or president. I want to be. and I know I could do a good job, and I know I could help save this parish, but I don't have to be. I think a lot of people in public office, it's their identity, they have to be.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm a little different.
Coach, let's talk about, again, I want to broaden this out. I don't think Baton Rouge is unique in the sense of the crime and the breakdown of the family and all of the pathologies that we're dealing with. But a lot of people see the problems, but they don't do anything about it. What would you say to others who are in cities across this nation that see the breakdown of society? What should they do? How should they respond? I mean, other than just, we don't need any more commentators. We don't need any more critics. We actually need people on the field to make a difference. Well, what would you say?
Well, it's a multi-layered approach to help with this. It starts certainly with the breakdown of the family. And I think the local churches, the pastors, are going to play a huge role in that part. But there's so many layers to crime, and it's coming up with a plan and then making the plan work. I mean, as a football coach, I've had many plans. They haven't all worked, but we go into it thinking they are, and then if it don't work, we fix it and we know what to do the next time, okay? And so you can't police yourself out of crime, but that is an important piece.
Right.
Law enforcement officers, we're shorthanded in our parish, and they're not paid what I consider to be a fair wage. You have to start there and take care of them.
So crime is a symptom. It is not the cause. It's a symptom of a deeper cause that we're seeing all across our nation, in society as a whole. It's a breakdown of the family. It's I think, and you've been an educator, you've been in the educational circles for 4 decades. I think it's also a marginalization of the role of faith in our public life. I think, when it's shocking, as Louisiana in this last legislative session approved a measure that would allow for the 10 Commandments to be posted in the schools, that's drawn lawsuits. And, you and I graduated from high school. You could still have the 10 Commandments. Actually, it was around that time was when the court ruled that they couldn't be there. I mean, that's a part of it. What do you see in terms of a holistic approach to dealing with the breakdown of society that has brought us these record crime numbers?
Well, so for the people that are engaged in these activities is a lot of hopelessness and trauma. Where do we go for hope? And that's our Lord. And there are churches in these communities, but I found with the young people, there's some trepidation about even going in. There's a trust issue. There's a trust issue with churches for some of them, and there's certainly a trust issue with law enforcement. But the whole thing is same deal like when I got to Istrouma High School. They didn't trust me. I believe that the majority of them do now. So it's opening that door and getting inside and getting into the heart and soul of these people.
It's relationship.
It's relationships. Now you could put it. That's where it could stop right there. Relationships for sure.
So we need churches. When I say churches, pastors or the leaders of churches to engage in the community and build relationships with elected leaders, with community leaders, and so there really needs to be more of the. Sit down, have a cup of coffee, work alongside one another to address community issues, as opposed to, finger pointing and the criticism that often comes in these local arenas.
Agreed. In law enforcement in particular, there's always task force. Mm-hmm. There's traffic division. There's homicide. There's got to be a what I would call a spiritual task force, and that involves the pastors, the local leaders, the churches, the police officers, EMS, public safety, a task force to work together to reach and build those relationships.
Well, I'll be happy to help you on that front. Also happy to introduce you to some attorneys who you will need, because you will have those on the left that will be suing you for even bringing up such an idea, which 40, 50 years ago was commonplace.
Right.
But I know as a head football coach, you're not going to be intimidated. You're going to do what needs to be done if the Lord opens that door for you. Coach Sid Edwards, I want to thank you for joining us today.
It was my honor. Enjoyed being here. Thank you very much.